The holiday lights draped across my parents' living room like frozen stars, reflecting off the ornaments on their towering Christmas tree. It was Christmas Eve, the kind of night that should feel warm, cozy, and magical. But for me, there was always an undercurrent of tension I couldn't shake. 3 generations of my family were packed around the table, the scent of roasted lamb and garlic curling through the air, promising the kind of perfection my mother demanded every year. My brother Marcus held court at the head of the table, grinning like a man who had finally cracked the code to life. "We're pulling the trigger in March," he announced casually. "Retiring early. Lisa and I are hitting the road in an RV for a year, or maybe 2. Applause, nods, smiles. Aunt Rosa gushed. "You've earned this. After all those years, it's your time." But I stayed quiet in my usual spot, picking at my roasted vegetables, careful not to draw attention. I had learned long ago that fading into the background was easier than facing the comparisons that inevitably followed. Then, like clockwork, the door opened. My cousin David arrived, shaking snow from his coat, a professional analyst with a knack for numbers, and someone I trusted more than anyone else in this family. He slid into the chair across from me, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Sophia," he said quietly, "how are you feeling? 2 months later. Any regrets?" I set down my fork, heart tightening. "None," I said. "It was overdue." He nodded knowingly. "For years. That's how long you've been footing a bill no one even noticed. Proud of you for finally drawing the line." The room went dead silent. Christmas music hummed awkwardly in the background, suddenly too loud. Conversations froze. Marcus' story about retirement died mid-sentence. My mother's fork hit the plate like a drumbeat of tension. "What line?" she asked cautiously. David glanced around the table, hesitant, realizing he had stumbled into something explosive, but the truth was his business. "The mortgage account," he said. And just like that, the bomb dropped. My father's face paled as David pulled out his phone, scrolling through detailed records. "Every deposit, every transfer, every dollar," he said, eyes locking on my parents. "This account has been in Sophia's name since 2020. She's the sole owner. You two had access, yes, but the money? It came entirely from her." I let the words sink in slowly, the weight of 4 years of silent effort finally breaking the surface. The account I had managed, funded, and sacrificed for, hidden under the guise of family obligation, was mine. And no one had really noticed until now. My mother's voice trembled. "Sophia, what are you saying?" I took a deliberate sip of wine. "I've been paying your mortgage for 4 years. You just had access to use the money." The table froze. Time itself seemed to pause as the quiet settled over us like snow on a rooftop. And in that moment, I realized this Christmas Eve wouldn't be like any other. It wasn't just about money. It was about visibility, respect, and finally drawing a line. About saying enough. Every glance, every subtle dismissal I'd endured over the years, the quiet way my achievements were ignored while Marcus and Lisa's successes were celebrated, came rushing back. This night was going to change everything. And somewhere deep inside me, I felt the first thrill of freedom, the knowledge that I was no longer invisible. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this, and comment below what you would have done in this situation. And if you're enjoying this story, give it a like, it really helps the channel. The room was frozen in disbelief, but the truth didn't care about their shock. My father's hands trembled as he tried to process the numbers David was showing. Spreadsheets, bank statements, transfers, every single dollar I'd sent for 4 years stared back at them, unblinking and undeniable. You've been paying our mortgage," my mother whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. "Yes," I said calmly, letting each word land like a hammer. "Every month. $3,200. For 48 months. $153,600 in total. All from my own income." The silence that followed was heavy, thick enough to choke on. My father finally spoke, his voice almost breaking. "But why didn't you tell us?" "I did," I said. 6 times. Twice in 2021, twice in 2022, once in early 2023, and one final time in August of this year. I reminded, I warned you. You chose to ignore me. You chose to let the arrangement continue while my life was put on hold." Marcus stammered, red creeping across his face. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know you were funding the house." David, still scrolling, pulled up text messages from years ago. You did, he said flatly. Every message you sent proves you were aware. In September you wrote, "Thanks for keeping Mom and Dad stable so Lisa and I can focus on our dreams. We'll pay you back when we sell the house someday." You knew exactly what was happening. Marcus' hands clenched the table. My mother's shoulders shook as she sobbed quietly. "I thought you were helping because you wanted to," she said, voice breaking. "We didn't know it was this much." "Yes," I replied, eyes steady on them. "Because you never asked. You never actually looked. You never even considered where the money was coming from. For 4 years I worked extra shifts, gave up vacations, skipped treats I wanted, all to keep a roof over your heads, without acknowledgement, without thanks, without recognition." The weight of it hit the table like snow-crushing branches. Aunt Rosa, the only calm presence left, leaned forward gently. "Sophia, what did you do 2 months ago?" "I froze the account," I said, letting the words hang. "I removed access for everyone. I transferred the remaining $6,400 back to my own savings and sent certified letters explaining that this ends now. Immediately. Permanently." My mother gasped, panic sharp in her voice. "On Christmas Eve. How could you do this to us?" I leaned back, voice soft but unwavering. "I didn't do this. You did it to yourselves. You created a dependency that wasn't necessary. You assumed someone else would always cover your mistakes. You never managed your own finances. And now you're learning what it's like to actually take responsibility." David added, matter of fact. "Sophia did everything legally and fairly. The account was hers. She gave you notice. She's more than reasonable." Marcus sank into his chair, silent. My mother dabbed her tears. My father rested his head in his hands. All around me, the family I had loved, sacrificed for, and tried to support without complaint was finally facing the consequences of their choices. I realized then, as the weight of 4 years of hidden labor lifted, that this wasn't just about money. It was about boundaries, respect, recognition. For too long I had been Sophia the giver, Sophia the helper, Sophia the invisible one. But now I was reclaiming my life. My time. My future. Aunt Rosa reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "It's about time, kiddo. You've been generous to a fault. Now you get to be yourself." And in that quiet, tense moment I felt the first real spark of liberation, the knowledge that for the first time in years, I was standing on my own terms. Not as their safety net. Not as the unpaid mortgage guarantor. Just as Sophia. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this, and comment below what you would have done if you were in Sophia's shoes. And if you're enjoying this story, give it a like, it really helps the channel. I left my parents' house that night with a quiet sense of purpose. Snow crunched beneath my boots as I walked to my car, phone buzzing nonstop with texts and missed calls. Marcus, my parents, even Lisa, they were all reaching out, panicked, desperate, apologetic. I ignored them. For the first time in 4 years, I didn't feel the need to respond immediately. This was my time. My choice. My life. At home I poured a glass of wine and opened my accounts. The numbers made me smile. 2 months without the $3,200 monthly transfers had grown my savings by $6,400. Add in the $6,400 I'd reclaimed from the frozen account, and suddenly I had $12,800 in liquid savings I could actually call my own. Freedom tasted a lot like empowerment. I spent the next few days browsing real estate listings, imagining a life built for me instead of everyone else. 2-bedroom condos with modern kitchens, balconies, parking spots, all within my reach now. For the first time in years, I could see a future I was actually planning for myself. The family tried to catch up. My father called a few days later. "We made the December payment," he said, voice strained. "And we'll make January's too. We cut spending, it's tight, but we're managing." "That's good," I said. Calm, firm. No guilt. Marcus followed up, quieter than usual. "We've postponed our retirement. We're staying another year to build a bigger cushion." "Smart choice," I replied. "You'll need to take care of your own finances. My money isn't subsidizing your dreams anymore." "I get it now," he said. "I didn't realize what it cost you. I just assumed it was affordable." "It wasn't," I said. "I was giving up my own goals to keep your lifestyle afloat. There's a difference." Even my parents were forced to confront the reality of independence. They learned budgeting, cutting discretionary spending, making difficult decisions. The panic of that first month without my support was sharp, but necessary. They could survive, and they would learn to thrive without me covering for them. 3 months later, I sat with David at a coffee shop, reviewing mortgage pre-approval documents. "You're approved for up to $320,000, he said, smiling. "With your savings rate, you'll hit the 20% down payment in 6 months, maybe 9. I shook my head, laughing softly. After 4 years of funding someone else's mortgage, now I finally get to build my own equity. "That's the difference," David said. "Investing in yourself, not subsidizing someone else." And I did. 5 months later, I closed on a 2-bedroom condo, granite countertops, stainless appliances, balcony overlooking the city skyline. It wasn't extravagant, but it was entirely mine. When I hosted the housewarming, my real family was there. Friends who had cheered me on, supported me, asked about my life, celebrated my wins. Aunt Rosa brought cookies, Marcus and Lisa showed up with genuine congratulations, and even my parents came, slightly humbled, cautiously optimistic. "To her new home," my father toasted, raising his glass. "To boundaries," David added, catching my eye. "To boundaries," I echoed, smiling. And I meant it. For 4 years I'd been invisible. Now I was seen. Not just by them, but by myself. 6 months later, sitting on my balcony as the sun dipped behind the skyline, I reflected on that fateful Christmas Eve. The panic, the shock, the uncomfortable truths. Back then it felt like I was destroying something precious. But now, in my own condo, watching my savings grow and seeing my family finally take responsibility, it felt like liberation. I wasn't Sophia the automatic mortgage payment anymore. I wasn't Sophia silently sacrificing for everyone else. I was Sophia with my own home, my own money, my own future. Texts buzzed on my phone. Marcus updating me on their savings, my mother sharing that they finally built a 3-month emergency fund, and David checking in on my mortgage pre-approval progress. I replied to each confident, composed. I had enforced the boundary, and the lessons were being learned. I poured another glass of wine and watched the city lights flicker on. For the first time in 4 years, I wasn't calculating payments or reviewing someone else's budget. I was living for myself, and it felt perfect. My revenge wasn't anger or drama. It was reclaiming my life, building my future, and forcing those who had relied on me to finally stand on their own. That Christmas Eve, I didn't ruin anything. I liberated everything, including myself. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Comment below what you would have done in Sophia's place. And give it a like if you enjoyed watching her finally take control of her life.